Kirby seemed to take a page out of Mario Kart and Pikmin by taking an old game, putting it on the Switch, and adding Deluxe to the end of it. Kinda strange how that happened 3 times in a row. This time it was Kirby's Return to Dreamland. Announced in September of 2022 and released exactly a year ago from when this video was uploaded, Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe was a game on the Nintendo Switch which served to remake the Wii Classic released in 2011. I actually hadn't picked this game up until a few months ago, which is quite shocking for a Kirby fan like myself. I had my reservations because I already had the original version on the Wii and found it hard to justify throwing 60 big ones at a game that's 13 years old now. But when Christmas rolled around, I thought it'd be a nice gift, so I asked for it. I didn't get it, but I basically placeboed myself into wanting the game, so I got it anyway, and I think it won me over. There was way more to it than I initially expected, and the new stuff is seriously solid. Though to get to what the remake added, we gotta get through the main story first. Our story begins with Kirby and company doing things, I guess. It's not too important. When suddenly a ship falls from a star-shaped portal and crashes nearby. Kirby and friends investigate the scene to find an otherworldly traveler named Magolor, who lost his most vital ship parts and energy spheres while he was crash landing. Seeing him in an unfortunate situation, Kirby volunteers to help Magolor repair his ship, as do King Dedede, Meta Knight, and New Face, back in 2011, Bandana Waddle Dee. The gameplay is pretty similar to how it does in the original Wii version, which is great because that was already a pretty strong foundation. And we finally have a main series Kirby game on the Switch that runs at 60 frames per second. I mean, I can understand Forgotten Land being the first 3D Kirby game, so of course there'd be some hiccups. I don't know why Star Allies couldn't. I don't understand that. It's not a big deal, but I remember a lot of people being up in arms about that. And aside from moves from the Spark ability that were borrowed from Plasma, any instances of motion control prompts are replaced with moving directions in the control stick, and in the case of the Super Inhale, you just hold the Inhale button longer, like an Amazing Mirror. In terms of actually significant things added to the main story, we got a new mode called Helper Magolor, where your health is doubled, and if you fall down a pit, Magolor saves you. Finally! Now game journalists can beat this game! But you only get that mode in the main story, so good luck with the rest of that. I wonder how helpful this mode will be for the final boss. Aside from that, we got some new abilities for this game that weren't in the original. And Festival, for some reason, which returns from Star Allies. Did they need an extra slot or what? First up is Mecha, where Kirby gets a bunch of mechanical armor and easy access to fire and electricity. He can ignite fuses just by walking, he gets a jetpack and can place mines on the ground that leave reverse lightning. He may be a little slippery, but it's crazy how much power he has right at his fingertips. He has hands. Next up is Sand. A bit of a strange pick for an ability, but one I found myself pleasantly surprised by. It has a surprising amount of practicality, getting a guard like Leaf Kirby and even Whip's power of reaching through walls with hands. Has sand hands. Each of these abilities even get a challenge stage for players old and new to get used to these new arrivals and see just what they're capable of. I already like the challenge stages as I'd said last time, so seeing more of them just adds to the experience. Most everything else is fairly par for the course if you're familiar with the Wii version. In terms of the main story, at least. After you beat the game, a lot of things open up for you. There's Extra Mode, which is the main story, but you get less health. The enemies are harder, as are the challenge stages, and Egg Engines gets an additional boss. Par for the course for the original game, except you can't use the new helper Magolor. Not much to talk about here. We got the arena, which is a boss rush similar to Superstar's arena, a jukebox to play the game's soundtrack, more cutscenes to watch in the theater, and... Huh. That's new. So, spoilers for a 13-year-old game if you care. As the title suggests, this takes place after the main story of the game, where Magolor betrays Kirby and friends to acquire limitless power. But not even that can stop Kirby, so he kicks his butt, and that leads to Magolor getting sent here. He's lost all his powers, got his clothing tattered, and worst of all, he became white. This is a very different take on Kirby, but I honestly dig it. And with Magolor's loss of powers, there's a skill tree you can use to progressively get them back using magic points you get from defeating enemies or racking up combos of enemies. Not too dissimilar to the likes of Pizza Tower. But don't worry about keeping that combo the whole level, that's not really a thing. And while the original game is fairly old, this side mode is not, so I'll refrain from spoiling too much about it here and recommend you play it yourself. Once you beat Magolor Epilogue, and the extra mode, you unlock the True Arena. If you thought the original Wii True Arena was difficult, here it's another level of hard. Not only do you have to fight every boss that was already in the True Arena originally, the bosses from Magolor Epilogue are thrown in here as well, which makes this over 20 bosses as a real test of endurance. Oh, and you don't get any additional healing items as compensation for the new rivals. So yeah, good luck conquering this. You'll need it. Now for the final big thing this remake added. You may have been looking through my footage and see me wearing a funny mask and ask, what's up with that? Well, the answer is quite simple. Press X. Okay, clear the second level and then press X. This is Merry Magoland, a minigame compilation with one cut from every game in the series that has had sub-games and some new additions. First up is Egg Catcher from Kirby's Adventure, a reaction-based minigame where you try to catch as many eggs as you can without getting a bomb by mistake. Samurai Kirby from Kirby Superstar is next, which is purely reaction time. I'm sure out of all the sub-games, this one is the most well-known. So much in fact that it has a separate side mode, but we'll talk about that later. Third up is Checkerboard Chase from Kirby 64, where you destroy the ground you stand on to make sure your opponents don't have any themselves. Arguably the most complex, as not only do you have 4 difficulties representing the game it came from, there's also a new high-speed mode to make the game all the more intense. Even if I would have liked to see Bump the Prop Bump solely so we could hear one of the most underutilized Kirby songs again, I won't deny I prefer this one a lot. Bomb Rally from Nightmare in Dreamland is probably my favorite of the picks, where you all take turns passing a bomb from one person to another. There's a lot of strategy in there, more than you would expect from bombs and hands. Crack Me Hack from Amazing Mirror is the most straightforward, and probably my least favorite of the package. It's a lineup of sub-games that entail you filling up a meter and hitting something. I personally would have preferred Speed Eaters, but what can you do? I honestly forgot Squeak Squad had sub-games, but Smash Ride feels like a pretty good intense one to choose. Kirby on the Draw from Kirby Superstar Ultra is next, and I wasn't expecting this one to work as well as it did. Since all of Superstar Ultra's original sub-games relied on the touchscreen, I was expecting this one wouldn't transfer over well at all. In hindsight, this was probably the only one that could be put on a different hardware without feeling similar to a different sub-game. Ninja Dojo comes back from the original Wii game, and you don't even need to use motion controls this time. And in terms of difficulty, Apprentice has 3 targets now, Warrior has 5, and Master has 10 still. On top of all of those picks from the past games, 2 brand new sub-games were added to the mix. Magolor's Tome Trackers has a similar aesthetic to Kirby's Card Swipe, only you move around to pick the right card, and there's a last chance round where you can double your points. Finally, there's Boomy Blasters, a top-down shooter of sorts, where you need to be the last one standing. Wait around long enough, and Kabula will make sure there's only one person standing. The biggest notable omission here is Scope Shot. For some reason, only one sub-game from the original game was ported, but not the other. It can't be because of motion controls, because it could have totally used what Kirby on the Draw does, so I'm guessing because Scope Shot is more cooperative than competitive, which all the other sub-games are, and in turn would clash with the Magolor Tours. What's a Magolor Tour, you ask? Basically running through 4 or so sub-games in random order. Whoever performs the best overall wins. And while the minigames do play a big part in this mode, there's more to it than just being a minigame collection. Playing these sub-games or finding hidden Magolors across the park gives you stamps, which can help you unlock more masks or souvenir items, both of which you can carry over into the main mode, with the exception of Magolor Epilogue. In addition, each sub-game has a series of missions where completing them all unlocks secret music tracks for them, or in the case of the 2 new games, an additional music track. Completing all of these missions gives you 20 extra missions to truly test your skill at these minigames, including Samurai Kirby 100, where you fight against 99 other opponents in the ultimate test of reaction time. I was initially way more upset about this mode as it was the only online play in this game, but I'm fairly certain now that this isn't really live per se, but using people's data of playing this mode as a stand-in for real people. And though only your first attempt of the day is recorded, you can give as many attempts as you like. They'll still count for the missions that concern you. And of course, there's also the presentation of the park itself, that you can wander around all you like. And it gets progressively more populated with the more missions you complete, as well as how far you progress into the main story. I just think it's cool seeing these characters who probably wouldn't get acknowledged in any other Kirby game, aside from this movie, obviously. Overall, this is a great side mode to play with not only Kirby fans who can appreciate the deep cuts, but new people who have never played a Kirby game who can experience these games for the first time. And the different masks not only feel like an additional deep cut, but they also really add to the funny factor of this game given how the characters wear them. If you don't have friends, well, at least you have the masks. Looking back on this game a year later, I was very wrong about this being no different from the original game on the Wii. There's so much new stuff here that I totally took for granted when I first heard of it. The big additions of Magolor Epilogue and Merry Macland are some of the greatest parts of this game. And the new stuff in the main story, namely the mecha and sand abilities, were pretty cool additions I hope to see in a future game. As I slightly hinted at earlier, my biggest grievance with this game is that there's no online play. When can I play a main series Kirby game with my online friends outside of the Retro NSO selection? I'm still waiting on that. Please, I have no real life friends, they are all online. Please, Nintendo, I am begging you! Aside from that though, I'd highly recommend picking up this game if you can find it. Whether you're picking it up for the first time, or just revisiting an old classic. That about wraps up my thoughts on this game. Until then, this is Kirby, and thank you for listening to me.